Gemma, hello and welcome to the Potential is Human podcast. You've just told me you're sitting in Dubai. I want to ask you, before we get into what you currently do, more for me is how the journey really unfolded. And we're going to touch on some big topics. But I know you were in corporate, and that was HR, if I'm not mistaken, for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Prior to that position or that role, what was your first ever career, and how did you end up in HR?
Oh, my first ever career. That's such a good job. Such a good question. Well, thanks for having me, Ryan. My first ever job, I was a waitress at the age of 14 in a golf club. And it kind of went from there, but from McDonald's wouldn't hire me until I was 16. So the minute I got to 16, I worked for McDonald's. Which was a great experience. And that's where the hospitality thing kicked in. And then I ended up doing HR for hotels here in Dubai. So that's the short version.
How long did waitressing last? I had a short gig in waitering, and it didn't really last long at all.
You know what? It's a really good question, because out of all the careers I've had, it's the one I probably enjoyed the most. And it was just a part-time thing, but from in between being a waitress and working in HR, I did 1 year in Florida working for Disney World.
Oh wow!
And in that year, I was working in the UK pavilion of Epcot and dressed as somebody from the UK, or at least what Americans perceive UK people to wear. And I was a waitress and a bartender and a location trainer, and it was so rewarding. Like instant gratification. You make someone's day and they'll remember you forever. And yeah, there's just something really special about it. So yeah, I could have gone and done that forever.
Yeah, when I think Disney, I just think fun, right? And childlike joy. And as you say, instant gratification in making other people happy. How did you get from Disney to professional HR?
So Disney was a very strategic move. I wanted a gap year at the end of my degree, but I didn't just want to do a gap year where I didn't gain anything. So I thought, well, I know I want to work in the hospitality industry. So who is the best at hospitality? Disney. So I did the 1 year there, and I attended Disney University and soaked up all the learning. And then basically from there, it's a 1 year contract. I went back to London and I found my first HR coordinator job in a hotel in London. And then, yeah, just I grew up the ranks in London. I think I did about 6 years there. I did a hotel opening and met my now husband in that hotel opening. And then the two of us moved out to Dubai. So, yeah.
Incredible.
That's the story.
Gemma, what resonated then about HR? Because then I'm going to touch on, meeting your husband, because these are significant, incredible, synchronous life moments. But what was it that you followed and wanted to pursue about this HR journey initially?
What was it about HR that attracted me to HR?
That attracted you, yeah.
I think it's human potential, I remember at college studying HR, and I just remember them talking about job rotation. And if you keep somebody in the same job for too long, they'll get bored. And obviously that's very straightforward and obvious, but as a 16-year-old, I was like, whoa, like that's how the brain works. And then I just got really interested in the psychology behind people and how to get the most out of them. And I think that's probably how I ended up in the HR route for so long, just being there for people and making their day. I think making a difference.
Yeah, for sure. And Gemma, meeting your husband, so did you at that time plan to meet somebody? Was it an intention you were focusing on? Because I think very often we take these synchronous moments for granted, right? You're meeting your life partner. How did that unfold for you?
Well, you're the first person that's ever asked me this. I was deliberately trying to stay single for a year. I was on a mission. I will be single for a year. And then we met, we were both part of the hotel opening team. It's incredibly long hours in hotels. And we ended up getting together I don't know. We just kind of got together, but I had like a real hard and fast rule. I will not marry somebody with tattoos, that smokes, or facial hair. Like these were my three like absolute no-nos. And he had all three of these things. So my guard was down. I wasn't expecting it. And then one thing led to another, and now we're married with two kids. Although I have to say, he no longer has facial hair and he's no longer smoking. tattoos are fixed, but
Yeah,
I
I was
can live with
about to
that.
say the tattoos sound like they're still there, although we can probably get them removed these days. So life had other plans for you. Do you ever stop and contemplate who or what or how this happens?
It happens. I feel I want to say magic. It just happens by magic, and I think there's little things that are planted through life that maybe lead us to those things. So I mean, this is not the husband example, but if I think about Disney, I first went abroad when I was, I can't even remember, like 11, something like this, or 12, and we were watching the fireworks, and I know I must have been already a waitress. So I must have been 13 or 14. And I remember my dad said, one day you could work somewhere like this. And that's it. That just that little comment, and something in my little brain went, okay, got that. And then years later, I got a job there.
Yeah.
It's these sort of things. And another example, we went to Dubai for Chris's job interview, because he had an interview before me. And across the road from his hotel, there was the Fairmont Hotel, and it's a very, very famous hotel in Dubai. It's one of the very first hotels ever in Dubai. And as a joke, I said to Chris, take a picture of me in front of my hotel. Like, I hadn't got an interview. There wasn't even a vacancy. I'd never heard of Fairmont, but he took a photo of me in front of this hotel, and then he got the job. We flew back to London, and he did his notice period, and we all flew out, and I had a few interviews lined up, and then there was a vacancy at Fairmont, and I got the job at Fairmont. Isn't that weird? So we ended up working either side of the road in Dubai. He was with one hotel chain, and I was with the other. It's like,
Yeah, I
I
love
could
it.
give you like 1,000 examples of this.
Yeah, I really believe that there's something so much greater planned for us, right? I mean, in terms of meeting Chris, in terms of that opportunity to work in hotels opposite from one another. Now you have a beautiful family together. Gemma, working in Dubai, I know that you did your corporate journey there and then started experiencing, or was it during this time that you started experiencing intense pain and back problems? Can you tell us a little bit about when that started for you and how did that actually happen?
Yeah, so I used to do a lot of dancing. So 2 weeks before moving to Dubai, I went to a dance convention in London, during which time I was saying goodbye to a friend. Like, it would be the last time I saw her before we moved to Dubai. And it was a silly accident. We were doing like an acrobatic thing, and somebody stood and leaned their body weight against me. We were supposed to balance, and she let go with one hand, and my whole spine went and twisted. For the rest of the day, I was in agony. Got home, ice, heat, whatever. I was trying all different things, straight onto the tablets, because all I was thinking is, in 2 weeks I'm going to be in Dubai. What if there's no doctors? I didn't know anything about Dubai. I was panicking. And normally I would have just let something like that heal. Like, it was just a minor little kind of twist, but it didn't feel better after two days. I went to the doctor. He gave me really strong tablets and said, take these, and if it's still not better in Dubai, see somebody. It didn't get better. So I saw doctors, got more tablets, and it gradually got worse. But I can't even describe to you how gradual is. I didn't even realize I had back pain. Like, I had back pain, but I just got used to living with it. And I gradually started altering the things. So I reorganized the kitchen so everything was at a height that I could reach without bending. I got rid of all my high shoes. I went to physio, because that's just what I did. It just became kind of a normal thing. And the pain came and went. Sometimes it was worse than others. Sometimes I would say I had no pain. And then suddenly it would get worse. Anyway, it was just weird. So it was throughout the whole time we were in Dubai, probably 8 and a bit years. And then we moved. We moved with Chris's job to Sri Lanka. And within the first month of being there, I was in absolute agony, like so much pain. Like I'd never experienced anything like it. The pain had got bad in Dubai to the point where I was having injections in my spine to kind of give me some relief from it, but nothing like the pain in Sri Lanka. So that's the sort of story of how it happened.
So Gemma, to be clear, did the injury or initially happen prior to Dubai? Was this in the UK when you were planning to move to Dubai?
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Now that's a significant relocation. Okay, so you get injured. There's this pain. Out of 10, 10 being the highest amount of pain, what would you say you were experiencing when you moved to Dubai?
Oh, 2, 1 or 2. It was a minor niggle. It was just a minor niggle.
And then you still lived with it for 8 years, 10 years?
In total, 10 years by the end.
And at that stage, let's say 10 years, just prior to going to Sri Lanka, what was the pain out of 10?
Before going to Sri Lanka, see, just to put it into context, Chris moved to Sri Lanka how long? I was doing a 3-month notice period on my job as HR director. And he went ahead of me to Sri Lanka because he needed to start his job. So I was in Dubai with 2 little kids, a 6-month-old and a probably by then 2-year-old, doing my notice period. And we had a villa, packing up the villa, organizing the movers, doing all this with back pain. So I would say the back pain was probably at this point about 8 or 9. I can remember not really being able to pick up boxes. I had to fly my mum to Dubai purely just to help me with the kids and fly them back. So she helped me with the movers on the day of the actual move, and then helped me with the kids. So it was bad enough for me to buy her a flight ticket to come and rescue me. But then when we moved to Sri Lanka, I would say when it was at its worst, out of 10, it was probably at least 13. It was unbelievable. Like I had to lie on the floor to play with the kids, and playing it, I wasn't even playing. I was just lying on the floor and they're kind of crawling around me, and yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what moving a villa must be like with 8 or 9 pain out of 10. And then, as you say, getting to Sri Lanka, needing to start a whole new chapter in a completely new part of the world, and now you're experiencing like 13 out of 10. So in the context of how I understand pain, and at that point, I would probably look at, I need medical support or intervention. There's something fundamentally wrong that's creating this pain. How did you go about unpacking that and starting the healing process for yourself?
Well, I went to see I'd already seen osteopaths in Dubai. That's something I ticked off. And then when I got to Sri Lanka and it got so bad again, I went to see a chiropractor. And he looked at the MRI scans that I'd previously had done and basically said, I can't touch you. This is bad. I can't touch you. So I remember coming back from that appointment properly in shock. Like I was, if a chiropractor can't help me, what's going to happen? So I went for another MRI scan in Sri Lanka, which is quite funny because at that time it was really old fashioned and they give it you on the when they stick it on the glass. So I got these huge scans to look at. And then the recommendation from the surgeons in Sri Lanka was, yes, you definitely need an operation. And I was thinking, okay, but there's no way I'm going to have an operation in Sri Lanka, like no way. So to relieve the pain at that point, I flew to Dubai and just had one more spinal injection because just to keep me going a bit longer. And then I started researching surgery options, and I found, you see, I was on the insurance thing. They have this thing where you can get a second opinion. So one surgeon said I needed a microdiscectomy. And I thought, that sounds a bit serious. So they basically do a case study, a case report or whatever it's called. They give it to 3 different surgeons in 3 different countries and ask them for their opinion on what do they think you should have done. I got 3 dramatically different responses for the same exact symptoms. So one was I can't even remember the name, something ablation. Basically, one wanted to spine join the bones together. One wanted to cut the side off, and one was like, just carry on with physio. So I was really confused and desperate. So at that point, I found a surgeon in Singapore who was willing to. He said, I fly out. He'd see me one day, he'd operate the next day, and I could fly back the next day. And he'd never met me. So I was like, yes, finally an answer. So I went ahead and booked him. And then I contacted the insurance company and said, I found the solution. I'm so happy. And the insurance company went, yeah, no, you're not going to go ahead with that. So they blocked it because that particular surgeon was famous for offering surgery very, very quickly without knowing the patient. So yeah, that's what I did.
So you were game to get on a plane, fly to Singapore to a surgeon you've never met, have surgery, and potentially rest for a day, not even a day, and head back.
Yeah, and at this point the kids were tiny. They were like 6 months and 2. So yeah, I was willing to do that. Which now I look back on it, absolutely ridiculous, but I was so desperate.
Sure. I get that. That speaks to the desperation, right? If you're willing to do that, to find a solution. I think it's good at this point to let people who may listen know that you're a pain coach. And that really stood out to me. Amongst other things that you do, when you said pain coach, I love that. And now it makes sense. So what is it that you do? Obviously, you help people who are experiencing pain, but there's no medical intervention required. I mean, you healed your pain, excruciating pain at that, without actually having surgery.
Yeah. So, I mean, this goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning. Things just happen at the right time. The insurance blocked the surgery. I was absolutely gutted. And actually, at that point, we were looking into how could we afford to do it ourselves, to pay for a huge surgery like this. And then at the time, I was part of a coach training school, and I was dialing in every day for these classes. And we are guinea pigs on each other. And they asked for a volunteer to be coached in front of like 20 people on this call. And I said, yes, I'll do it. I've got a great topic. And this girl said, well, what would you like coaching on? She was like the coach. What would you like coaching on? And I said, I just want somebody to cut my back off. I can't live like this anymore. And she had 20 minutes to coach me. And obviously it was an interesting 20 minutes. But at the end of the 20 minutes, the trainer on the call that's supposed to be giving her feedback on her coaching said to me, you've got to check out this book. And then he gave me the title of a book that was written by Dr. Sano, and it was on the mind-body way of healing. Now, if you'd have given me this book when I was in Dubai and the pain was 8, or when the pain was 4, I would have thrown it across the room and told you, forget it, like there's no book is going to cure me. But I literally was desperate. So I started reading it immediately as soon as I got it. And within the first maybe chapter or 2 chapters, I just knew I had the answer. And I was like, this is it. And basically what had happened in my body, which is very common for many, many, many people and almost all conditions, is the pain had become a learned neural pathway. And so whilst the injury was very real at the beginning, very, very real, and the pain was, I can't tell you how excruciating it was very real. The pain had become a learned response. So in the same way we learn to ride a bike, we never forget. For some people, pain is the same. So you have a pain signal that goes, do this and you'll feel pain. And that neural pathway gets stronger and stronger and stronger and bigger, which means you're kind of locked in your own cycle, which is the pain fear cycle. And even just reading this book, I could feel the pain like dissipate ever so slightly. And so now I'm a pain coach. I take people through the process with coaching on sort of the techniques from this book, because there's very few people that are book cures. I certainly wasn't a book cure. I read it and I got relief, but there was a lot of work I needed to do afterwards. So
all human beings on some level can relate to pain. So I think it's exceptional that you found this path. Just go back to the knowing, right? So you put this poor woman who's now coach training with you, and she needs to facilitate the session. You've told her, like, you're going to cut your back off. She must have been like, okay, how do we do these 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Then you find your way to this book. You said you just knew. What was that knowing? Because I think we have these moments in our lives. When you say, I just knew, how would you describe that you just knew?
Because you know what, there's certain personality types that are more susceptible to chronic pain. And very early on in the book, it talks about people who are type A personality, high achievers, a lot of empathy, people who overthink things, perfectionists, people pleasers, you know. And as I was reading, I was like, oh my God, yeah, yes. I'm all of these things. And so sometimes personality itself is enough to keep our nervous system dysregulated to the point where we wouldn't heal, no matter how much physio you do, no matter how much. I could have had surgery and I probably would have been all right for a while, but the pain would have come back because of my personality type. My nervous system was dysregulated. So there was kind of two pieces to it. One is actually there's kind of three pieces. One is understanding the pain fear cycle and understanding that pain is a neural pathway, and it always is a neural pathway. That was crucial. Second part was understanding about personality and why my specific personality traits are causing me to be stressed. And then the third part is understanding how the past, my past, had impacted the pain. So people who have trauma of any kind as children have a dysregulated nervous system from a young age. And when I say trauma, it doesn't need to be big trauma. I didn't have big trauma, but even small things. So for example, if for some reason you're a perfect child and everything has to be perfect and you're a perfectionist, that's hard as a child to keep that up for a long period of time. When you become an adult, your nervous system is still dysregulated, but you don't know it's dysregulated at all because you've only ever known what it feels like to have this. That makes sense?
That makes complete sense. Do you think these experiences, Gemma, so in your case, the back and the pain, right, this suffering, was there a particular lifestyle that you lived prior to experiencing this? You know, I think of like the busyness of the world and the go, the personality, Dubai, right? Knowing how busy that life is. Do you think sometimes these experiences are a result of being disconnected from ourselves and, you know, pushing way too hard, and then unfortunately suffering arrives on the path so that we can turn towards ourselves again and actually remember who we are?
100%. Yeah. I mean, even if I think back to when I was 16 working at McDonald's, I loved the job, but I was always getting the highest till hour. You know, we used to do races to see who can serve the most people in the most amount of time and upsell the most. The energy I got from that competition and the racing and the being the best and the fastest and the most efficient, like that has always been me. And then Disney, same thing. And then, you know, Dubai, right? So the working hours here and the pressure it's insane. So I was leaving the house at 7:30, saying goodbye to the tiny, you know, kids at that time, working until, I don't know, the earliest I would get back would be 7:38 at night. And I'd see them just for a minute before they went to bed. And then I'm trying to be super mom in that, like half an hour with them in the morning and half an hour at night. And then I become super wife in the evening, you know? So I've got all these different hats to wear, and each one of them was really, really stressful. And that's just on a normal day. But then you add on top of that things like, because I was HR, a lot of the staff would come to me as the first person they would tell about their personal issues, you know, their own personal emergencies back at home. And so then I'm absorbing all their stress and anxiety and everything, and then I'm taking that home. So I definitely think I didn't have 1 second, not even 1 millisecond, to think about who I was or what I was doing. And in a weird way, I enjoyed the adrenaline of working so fast. It was really addictive, really, really addictive. And if you'd have asked me when we were in Dubai towards the end, are you stressed? I would have said no. I didn't feel stressed. It was my normal. I have always felt like that.
Yeah. So you would say no, but perhaps there's the unconscious stress, and you're just so used to living at that level and at that speed and at that intensity that you actually would consider it as not to be stressful.
Yeah, because I didn't, to me, that seemed like normal. But you know what's interesting? That we don't feel stressed necessarily, but our body absolutely knows we're stressed, hence the back pain, you know.
For sure.
So it's fascinating, really fascinating. So
I think of your husband in this, right? So what was this like for Chris? Because you're both living quite high-paced lives. He's getting relocated to Sri Lanka. You're getting progressively worse in terms of the pain. And he's watching you go through this while having children and needing to, let's say, put bread on the table, for lack of a better word.
That's a very good question. We should interview him to get the answer on that. But I mean, the word that actually, this is interesting, because the word that comes to mind is helpless. He was helpless. He can't take away the back pain. You know, one thing he used to do is absolutely so ridiculous now when I think back about it. He's 6'4". He used to lift me, like he'd lift me up so my spine would decompress, that feeling of like dangling. And so he'd like dangle me, like that's all he could really do to help. So I would say, and obviously for the listeners, that's not a solution for healing back pain, by the way. It was psychological that I thought it, you know, I thought that it was doing something. But now when I think about what is my why do I do this? Sometimes I think I want to help people get out of pain. And I help a lot of people get out of pain. But I think the thing that motivates me is knowing what impact it will have on their families, their kids, and for people that are working, their teams. Because when we're in pain, we're not at the best version of ourselves by a long shot. Like I remember like snapping at the kids and just being really irritable and not really hearing them when they're talking to me. And so, for me, the why is sometimes it's the family, the wider circle of people. I
once heard somebody say to me, you know, we initially teach what we once most needed to learn. And I see that so clearly in your experience, right? That firsthand experience of pain, knowing how that impacts you, a husband, a family, and now obviously wanting to help others who may be going through the same. Gemma, if somebody is experiencing pain, is it the back that you work with? Do you work with other parts of the body? And how do you know if somebody can work with you or whether they might need actually medical intervention or support?
Yeah, so basically, I work with all conditions apart from like if it's an infection, you know, like definitely I can't help with an infection. You would need to go and get antibiotics or whatever you need for the infection. A broken arm, I can't work with a broken arm because I'm not a surgeon. I can't join it back together. But if you had a broken arm and it's still not healed after 3 months, absolutely, I can help you. So I would best describe the type of clients I attract is old sporting injuries, like, oh, I did this when I was 18 and it still hasn't healed, you know, this kind of thing, where people have become complacent. They're just used to living with this thing. Oh, I used to be a runner, but I don't run anymore because of XYZ. Like, yes, I definitely can help with this. Migraines, fibromyalgia, long COVID, anything that is caused by neuroplasticity, which is basically everything. I mean, I don't want to say I can heal absolutely everything. But another thing is, whenever you're picking a practitioner, it's the chemistry you have with the practitioner that is absolutely key. So I always meet with people beforehand to make sure, because if they don't trust me, it's not going to work. They've got to feel that it's safe, it's you know, and they've got to believe that they can get better. And I have to believe 1,000% that they can get better, because if I even have a 2% niggling thing that they're not going to get better, then I'm not the right person for them. You know,
when I hear this, you know, it blows my mind. I love to do what I get to do. You clearly love to do what you do, and then I see what you're doing, and I hear, and it's new to my awareness, and I'm like, they are incredible individuals doing stuff which they once never planned to do, right? This wasn't part of your, like, I'm going to be a pain coach and help people heal their pain one day. Yet you went through firsthand experience, and now you're offering that to the world. And there's a lot of pain in the world. And I think it's incredible when I do take a pause to think, wow, there's really special individuals on this planet. Everyone has their thing. And yeah, thank you for what you're doing. How long is a typical journey that somebody walks with you, Gemma? How long does the process take? Is it a structured program? Is it indefinite? What does it look like?
Yeah. So, well, I'm a big believer of giving people the tools so they can go on and continue the journey on their own. So I take people through like basically a 4-step process, although it depends on the individual. Some people just don't need a portion of it. So the first thing is understanding the science behind pain. I mean, we've touched on it today about the neuroplasticity. I can either do that with people one-on-one, or, you know, I can direct them to videos or books, or, you know, a lot of clients, especially type A, they just want to get as much value as possible. So do their own research, really understand neuroplasticity and pain. And then so that's part 1, pain. The second part is personality. So I take everyone through Gallup Clifton Strengths profiling tool, and then I help them to see how and why certain things are triggering them stress-wise, and then help them see how stress is linked to pain. Now, this portion is something I used to do in HR. It is something that is good for anyone with or without pain, because understanding your strengths, when you use your strengths, you just feel stronger. So I love this part of it. Then there's the next part is past, and we go and look at past, any trauma, any beliefs that have been taken from childhood, and we can work to unravel that. Now, some people prefer to do that with they already have a therapist that they're working with, so I can just guide them on what topics to kind of take to the therapist, which I can usually get to pretty quickly. So that's past. And then the last one is practical tips that they can do, because once we've got rid of the pain, we need to regulate the nervous system forever. It's not something where you just get rid of the pain and then go back to your old lifestyle. There's things that we need to do to make it. If you want to change, you've actually got to make some changes. So that's that. But lengthwise, to answer your question, I usually do 8 weeks. Okay. So 8 weeks, and then if people want to do more, they can. But I'm always trying to get people to take control and get back to living. That's the main thing. Yeah, free themselves. I feel when you say that. Gemma, how has your lifestyle and you, in terms of the way you show up, shifted from that go high intensity life, pain, healing? Do you have more space for yourself now? Do you choose to do things differently? Yeah, 100%. I'm just a different person. Like when I look in the mirror, I feel like I have a different face. Like everything's kind of relaxed. When I'm with the kids, I'm with the kids. They're 6 and 8 now, so they have a lot of energy, and I love being with them. I'm from a physically, I'm with them running around, and I was at a sports event yesterday with my daughter, and I had to do, she's timing me, how many sprints can I do in a minute for some activities she's doing at school. And it felt really good to be the mom that's there doing all this sprinting, when I know I wouldn't have been had I never discovered the mind-body approach to healing. Yeah. So I always, anything sporty, I just ran my first half marathon, and the whole time I was like, yeah, I'm doing this because I can do this, Excellent. And pain-free? Was the marathon a pain-free experience? Yeah, well, yes, it was until the last stretch, and then I got knee pain. But this is probably a bit deep, but what's interesting when you work with clients, sometimes you pick up their symptoms.
Yeah.
And at the time I was working with a client who had knee pain as a result of running. And as I was running, I thought, this isn't my knee pain. and it went. It was it's hard to explain why in such a short time, but yeah, it was there and then it's gone. So yeah.
I love that so much has changed, and you're healthy, and you clearly love, sports and being active. Although the injury came from you, like doing something with building human pyramids. Yeah, presence. When you said, time with the children, I really feel presence there. And I do believe, Gemma, that we lose ourselves in life to find ourselves again, and you say like you're a totally different person. I'm led to believe that you're probably more of what you always were, and that we have to, kind of lose our way and head into the woods to then realize, okay, I'm lost, I'm suffering, and I need to go back to who I've known myself to be. So it's amazing to hear how you've faced that and navigated that, even though pain is not something which we wish upon anyone. I've got 2 questions for you, if you're open to answering them. I do like to be a bit vulnerable and human on these discussions. I think as coaches, people can sometimes look at us and think they've conquered things and they've got it all together, but we're also just so human. What scares you? Is there anything that deeply still scares you, even though you've done so much work on yourself?
I don't know if it scares me that I won't be able to help as many people as I want to help.
Wow.
Sometimes I wish that I wish what I did was taught in school, like it's so many people are suffering, so many, and I've got the answer that worked for me, and it's working for many, many, many people already around the world. But it takes 20 years from when the research is done on things like pain to reach the bottom line where it really matters. So what I'm doing is not actually being taught yet, even in medical school, so there's no way a doctor's got the time or the knowledge to help. And so that scares me, that like the next generation is going to grow up without. I look at how many people have chronic pain now, and often if you have chronic pain, it means that your kids will have it as well. And I think the number of chronic pain is rising, and so the next generation is going to be even worse. I just can't imagine a world where everyone's in pain. So that scares me a lot. So
yeah, that's an excellent answer. Perhaps today, it is shifting for you. Maybe it will be in schools. And I think because you're so passionate about it, we have to trust that this path is revealing everything that needs to be revealed for you and the impact that you still will make. My next question is, do you believe in a greater power? Without us giving it any name or concept, him, her, it, looking at your life experiences, how it's unfolded, meeting Chris, the back, the healing, the whole process until now. Do you?
Yes. I mean, look at all the things. And when you said I had no intention of ever working with people in pain, I was kind of laughing on the inside, because I can remember being very, very young, lining all my teddy bears up, and I made a teddy bear hospital. And one by one, I get my sewing kit out, and I would be fixing all the teddy bears. And I remember sitting them all at the end of the bed, and then feeling sad that they didn't all get to meet each other, and reorganizing them. That's HR, isn't it? Like I'm making sure my teddy bears are all happy and they all get the chance to meet each other. And so I think that things happen for a reason, for sure. And going back to what you said, the pain, while I wouldn't wish it on anyone, yes, it's been the biggest gift. It's like an early warning sign now. If I get even a tiny little twinge in my back, I know this is trying to tell me something, and I can then make make a change. So yeah, I wouldn't want to put a name to whatever this bigger thing is, but yes, 100%. Yeah.
I'm so glad you told us about the teddy bears, because there again is the perfect pointer that it's always been there, right? It's your path and it will continue to unfold for you. So it's not something which was completely unknown to you. It was inherent, we could say, in some sense. Gemma, anyone who wants to reach out to you and has found value in what you've shared today and the work that you do, how can they contact you and how can they find you?
Yep, so I have a website, which is my name, Gemma McFall.com, and it's Gemma with a G, which I know in lots of different countries, Gemma's not spelled with a G. So it's GemmaMcFall.com. And on there, there's a what you call it, a quiz called "Is Your Pain Curable?" So they can click on that, and then it comes up with a little video of me talking through neuroplastic pain and how people can self-diagnose if they believe that they have it, and it goes through personality types, things that happened in the past, and basically the more you answer yes, the more likely it is that your particular thing is from neuroplasticity. So yes, head over to my website. I'm terrible at social media at the minute, but I do have a LinkedIn presence. So if you're on LinkedIn, I'm there under the same name.
Thank you, Gemma. I just want to also say thank you for making the time to have a discussion today, to share your story so openly. I wish you and your family all the best. And hopefully I'll see you again and we can have another chat on this podcast.
Super. Thanks so much for having me, Ryan.
My pleasure. Take care of yourself.
Thanks.